Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
I'm Megan. That just means I'm bringing you part 2 of our Alison Botha case. And let's shake our gree-gree.
Good luck, gree-gree.
Always. I'm going to squeak a duck.
You go ahead and squeak the duck.
Clear the air, and we haven't done that in a while. So I had left you off with the amazing and terrible survival story of Alison Botha. And we have now figured out who the perpetrators are. Not quite necessarily the whys behind things yet, and it kind of brings us to the confessions. Mm-hmm. We do know that they have been very inappropriately released on bond, which caused quite a stir, and I believe some reform in terms of how those cases are handled. So Alison is already starting to make a difference.
Now, I want to make a distinction here. They were not released on bond after what they had done to Alison.
Oh, very good. Franz DeToy was released on bond on a sexual assault of one victim. The second victim, which was one he was in collaboration with Mr. Kruger, they were both released on that on PR bonds.
Yep.
And those had happened within about 10 months of each other. So while they're on bond, and again, a PR bond, not having to post any money or have any responsibility to anything or anybody, they then rape brutally Alison in an attempt to murder her. That was their intention, to murder her just two weeks after the day they bonded out of jail or were given bond.
Yep.
At the time of their arrest, DeToy, that's Franz, and Kruger, that's Tierns, had only been told that they were suspected of rape.
Really?
They did not know that Alison had not died.
Okay.
So they're being arrested and they know they're suspected of rape, which causes me to believe they figure, somebody else told on us. They've raped multiple people.
I was just going to say, that means they don't know that this is Alison. They're thinking
they do not.
Yep, they're thinking
because
it's another one that they hadn't been caught for yet.
They believe Alison is dead and that perhaps her body's not been found yet.
Yep.
But they're not being investigated for murder. They're being investigated for rape. And Detective Humple was planning on using this information against them. So he takes Tierns Kruger aside first, since he's the youngest. I haven't told you yet, he is 19 years old.
Oh my God.
And because Franz DeToy, who was 26 years old, was much more organized, he had more run-ins with the police before, and I'm going to explain some interesting things about him.
Okay.
So Kruger, the 19-year-old, picture it, this cocky, scary devil, comes in, slumps in a chair in the office, just the no respect thing, probably got man spread going on.
For sure. Like, I don't give a shit that I'm here. And I'm not scared.
Right. And Detective Humple looks at him and says, "You're being charged with rape and attempted murder." And Kruger is confused. Attempted murder? And then Detective Humple gets to tell him, Alison Botha survived a brutal attempt at your murder. And not only that, son, but she remembers everything that happened that night.
Oh, my God.
He's shocked.
And that's when he shat his pants.
Yep. He's shocked. He swears. And he says, well, in that case, probably won't help if I lie, huh?
Yeah, you're right. It won't.
Then he takes the rings out and hands them to the police officer, the detective that DeToy had taken from Alison and handed him.
Oh, wow.
And
he still had them on his person?
Yep. And he proceeds to recount the events that occurred between December 17th and the early morning hours of the 18th, when she was brutally raped and attempted to be murdered.
Interesting. Why was he here? Why was he in cahoots with this psychopath?
Let's talk about it. On December 17th, Kruger was over to DeToy's having a barbecue.
Okay.
The two men are drinking beer, and there was some friction between Franz DeToy and his wife due to financial issues. So DeToy, the 26-year-old,
Him's married?
Him's married.
Sure.
And at some point, they decided to leave, deciding, I guess, amongst themselves that night that they needed to go find a beautiful girl to rape and kill with a nice car.
Oh, you mean take out all of his anger that he has for his wife on somebody else?
They are on bond, both of them at this point, having colluded together to rape, but they didn't murder the pregnant woman.
Right.
And so now they decide they're going to go find a girl to rape and kill with a nice car. I'm just going to point this out. He says the intention was to kill at the beginning.
Yeah.
And personally,
they wanted somebody with a nice car.
I think that's what he's in it for.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
They did not finish the barbecue.
I think I said that in part 1.
You did. Mm-hmm. They did not finish the barbecue. They drank a 2.5 liter sherry at a sheben or a sheben. This is an unlicensed and therefore illegal establishment providing alcohol.
Okay.
Before embarking on their mission. They did not have success finding a victim, according to Kruger, and he lost interest. So he said, I'm going to go to club tonight. And so he goes to the club, and Franz DeToy continues the search and later comes back to find him. And this is where Kruger finds Alison, who's been kidnapped, and he's in her car.
Yep.
At Nordhoek, DeToy first raped the woman, and then Kruger did. DeToy strangled her and then pulled her from the car. Kruger asked his friend whether he thought the girl was dead, Alison. Let's find out, he replied, and stuck his knife into her stomach. This is what he's saying happened.
Okay.
He apparently liked it and continued stabbing her.
Okay.
Then Kruger takes out his hunting knife, the one that he'd been brandishing, and draws it across the skin of her throat. DeToy shoves him aside and then repeatedly slits her throat, cutting the wound deeper and deeper, and then they drive off, have some more beer, and goes to sleep. This is how Kruger describes the events.
Okay.
They aren't as in detailed, but they're a little bit of a different.
They align. They do align, but yeah,
So he says
his blasé attitude much different from all of the trauma that Alison remembers.
He says my buddy rapes her, and then I do. Well, you try, buddy. Okay. Then DeToy strangles her. We remember that, right? When he's on her, strangling her. Then they pull her from the car. He's thinking that she's dead at this point. DeToy says, let's find out to him. That's when he allegedly sticks the knife in her stomach, because remember, Alison's remembering that he says something, or he's attempting to not just disembowel her, but hurt her female reproductive organs. And Kruger's like, yeah, my buddy seemed to like it so much, he kept on stabbing her. And then I took my hunting knife because I think Kruger's in it for the kill. So he goes to kill her and slashes her throat. But DeToy's enjoying this so much, he pushes him off and goes on his little rampage of some kind. Well, Kruger agrees to confess in front of the magistrate as well, the judge. Their legal system is different here, because what you're going to hear me tell you in terms of this process is they're actually going to make admissions in front of the magistrate, but then they still have a trial.
Okay.
So even though you plead guilty to something, you still have a trial, and then there's a sentencing phase, or they call it like a mitigation hearing. Okay. And I'm going to get to all of it. Okay.
Yeah, that is a little different.
It's very different. So in front of the magistrate, he confesses to raping the pregnant woman earlier in December. And then in addition, he provides the detective with the knife that they used on her, or that he used on her, engraved with the name Frick, F-R-I-K. And that's the knife that he had used to cut Alison's throat.
Did he steal that from someone?
I don't know.
Or is that
it never
a brand?
Explains it. It might be maybe Frick. It doesn't say the brand. It says the name Frick. And I will be honest, I researched a ton of different words and things in Afrikaans here, but I don't know. I did not research Frick. If anybody knows, feel free to at me. DeToy was also shocked learning that Alison had survived.
Oh, I bet he
when
was.
They brought him. He did tell pretty much the same story, though.
Okay.
He did not point fingers. Detective Humple noted that he showed absolutely no remorse, and in fact, he seemed to derive much pleasure from divulging all of the details.
Yeah, I wondered.
He said they wanted to look for another girl the next day after they thought they killed Alison. And he went so far as to say the next one, we were planning to throw her off the Van Stadens Bridge because it's 410 feet high and most people commit suicide there.
Wow.
Pure evil. Charnell.
Wow.
On December 20th, so very quickly it happens.
Yeah.
They are then in the magistrate's court on numerous charges. They were not allowed to post bail this time.
Oh, wow. You don't say.
I do. I do
Thanks,
say.
thanks for getting that one right, at least.
I want to tell you a little bit about Alison before we get into the trial, because I think it's important for people to know where she is at this point. She's very important to South Africa. She's very important to this cause and what has happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
So after Tian had visited Alison after her surgery and she's healing, he gives her
just
a small...
remind people who Tian is.
Tian, it's Tiaan. So if I'm pronouncing that wrong, again, because I am not native to South Africa, this is the brilliant veterinary student who saves Alison by having the bravery to stop at what he saw in the road and provide aid. And then he has stuck with her.
And he's only 20.
He's adorable. And 20, I know. And Charnell and I both have 20-year-old sons, and all I can think about is our babies, right? Finding this girl.
This is exactly what both of our babies would do.
Yeah, and hoping that you have raised, whoever Tian's mom is, that you have raised a son who would do something like that to help render aid.
Both of ours would, for sure.
So a detective, So he gives her the cactus and a card, and inside the card it says, "You're the bravest person I have ever met." So she's like, this is something that she's keeping with her always. It means so much to her. A detective comes to visit her on her second day in the hospital. This is when she actually meets Melvin Humple, because remember, the female detective she's met, he turns it over to Humple, the investigating officer in her case. He tells her not to worry. The men responsible had been arrested earlier that morning and are in custody, and she said she finally felt some relief in the case.
Yeah.
So this story became real popular real fast, and news outlets become very interested in Alison. So I want you to know where she is at the time that this case is going through the legal process. People are responding to her story on one hand because people in general tend to like tales about someone who survives against all odds. And I think that was most of it. Honestly, you and I talked about this last time, but also there was a significant part of the population and with the media that knows that crime, especially rapes, are a huge issue in South Africa. And this woman is showing so much courage in the face of this horrific attack to something that's typically brushed under the rug. So they're making something public or feeling safe enough finally to make something public that wasn't before. It was taboo.
Yeah.
Well, Alison it's not that she's hesitant to speak with the press, as they're all trying to call her, but she's literally not quite up to it physically.
Yeah, guys, she just survived a hellacious
the unsurvivable. She survived the unsurvivable.
She did. And then went through surgery and then could feel everything. Well, she's trying to recover. Holy
and I
crap.
want to talk to you about that because, well, the other reason and the most important one from a legal perspective is Detective Humple also advises her to wait until after the trial. Like, this is not the time to go to the media, right? Okay, we need to preserve evidence. And she does listen to him.
Oh, good.
So she's still struggling with the fact that the two men had tried so hard to kill her and that she was still alive and had constant excruciating, mind-blowing pain. She's still having a hard time processing based off of things that she's reading in the internet about things that they've confessed to, that they were intending to kill her the whole time. I mean, remember, she tried to save her own mind by processing that maybe...
Well, that's what our brain does.
Yeah, that maybe it was never intended to be a murder and things just went wrong, right? I don't know why people might think you would want to justify for the killers, but just to have some faith in humanity somewhere.
It's just a way that our brain tries to completely survive and go back to that state of homeostasis where everything is okay and level and normal. Mm-hmm.
Just the daily process of cleaning her body and her wounds in and of itself is just torture all the time. Imagine. So she's in constant pain.
Can she even move her neck? I mean, her neck was almost severed.
She can, but I mean, and she's constantly at risk for infection, for sepsis. And Christmas is looming, and she finally walks a couple steps for the first time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So fast?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
They get her up, and she starts to take some steps. She said, "I took some steps despite the feeling that my intestines wanted to burst from my abdomen."
Oh, I bet.
So I was thrilled.
I bet they... Also, I don't think you can unfeel that feeling. No. You guys, she knows what it feels like to have her intestines on the outside
of her body
while she carried them through a beach and dirt and a road.
No,
and so,
the only thing that any of us women-wise can even compare that to is that brief moment in childbirth where you think everything is falling out of your vagina.
Yes, exactly.
That's about it.
Yep.
But and no, passing a kidney stone doesn't count, guys.
Nope. And now she knows what that feels like. And so, that would be real weird to stand up and have everything back on the inside, but it's still that pressure.
Yes. Well, after Christmas, she's doing well enough that they move her out of high care, our ICU, and she's moved to a private room, and she's beginning to walk with more frequency. And then despite some setbacks, she's actually discharged on the last day of 1994. So December 31st, 94. Her mother takes care of her for some time because she's having to travel back and forth to the hospital daily to have her wounds redressed.
Sure.
Days grows into weeks, and Allison's telling everybody that she's okay and she's acting like she is, but her mom is seeing that she's not doing well mentally. She's experiencing mood swings, irritability, and often acting contradictory to the person she used to be.
Sure.
Her mom knew at this point in time, and she did too, that she needed help. Yeah. And even though she didn't want to see it herself at the time, when her mom gave her the number of a counselor, she did go speak with the counselor and says it did help. And she started going then with some regularity.
Good. I mean, first we're trying to heal our body. Now we have to heal our mind.
And here's just the perfect example of why you need to heal in terms of, like, she knows that they're arrested and what she's got to go through. So one evening she finds herself in the bathroom and she's staring at her wounds on her neck, that line. Mm-hmm. And then it's her stomach. And those are the ones that she describes as hideous because there's all the scars, all the stab wounds, and then all the scars even of the incisions made to put her back together.
Of course.
And she said that the moment was overwhelming and she started crying and she called her mom and she said, "Look at me, who will love me this way?" She also was worried at that point that DeToy and Kruger might somehow get bail and that they might come after her. And she spent many sleepless nights having those dreams of them finishing the job that they started.
Yes. That is a very, very common fear.
Also concerned that, you remember how she felt when she was outside the club when they were picking him up? She was concerned they might know others who might come after her.
Right, right. That is also a very legitimate
and real fear.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
As March is approaching now, so she spent a few months at home, she does go back to work.
Wow.
As the insurance agent. It is not what she thought it was going to be. It is not the same joy she found in her job before.
I bet not.
She was an insurance broker. I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, her entire perspective on life and the world has changed.
It has. She said that she longed for the moment to get back to her old normal life, but it was never going to be her old normal life. There was no doing that anymore.
No.
Her relationship with Detective Humple, remember, he's an older dude, had grown quite a bit in terms of her trust. Mm-hmm. She's really liking this man. It's appropriate. I don't want anybody to think otherwise. He is frequently listening to her concerns and reassuring her. I love that this old school detective has developed this relationship. And I said this, I put in my own quotes, this is says quite a lot about a man, since detectives in South Africa routinely have to carry what caseloads easily approaching 860 to 80 dockets. Mm-hmm. Definitely not having time just to console victims and future witnesses on their cases. Then it's March 3rd. So we're at the beginning of March. She's in a small waiting room. Okay. She's with a couple of women. The couple of women she was sitting with were the women that were very intimately tied to her because they are also the victims from the two rapists.
Okay.
And the three of them are there to identify. Mm-hmm. They sat in silence. They were not allowed to have any contact or speak with each other. Just eyes, just looking at each other with this intimate connection that no women should ever have to have. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly her name was called and she actually had to go in first. She said, even though she was so worried about what would happen when she got in there, she did not have any problem recognizing them. And this was an actual physical parade. This wasn't pictures.
Right.
She said they look different, but it's number 6 and number 13. And Detective Humple later confirmed that she had in fact identified DeToy and Kruger.
Yep.
She did read the frequent newspaper articles about the case and got new information now and then, which probably wasn't good for her brain because in one, she read a quote from Terrence Kruger saying they wanted a nice car and a nice woman. Our goal was to find the woman, take her car, kidnap her, rape her, and kill her. And reading these lines is what unsettled her.
Yes. Could you imagine reading that about yourself and you realize, I am a nice woman. I did have a nice car. And
I was kidnapped, raped, and they tried to kill me.
Yes, exactly.
And it meant that DeToy had known that they would kill her all along when she was trying to convince her brain that she could survive this.
Yep. Her brain was trying to protect her.
It was. Mm-hmm. Allison decided then it was time to go back to counseling again. Good. So she went a few times, like I said, December, January. At some point in time in there, I didn't put it in my notes, but she'd actually gone on holiday with some friends. I think maybe to Zimbabwe. And she just wasn't her. She wasn't having joy. She was finding herself very depressed despite the fact that she survived. And I think a lot of survivors do end up having those feelings and emotions.
Yes. You have to find your new normal and you have to find a way to be okay with it. And
Absolutely.
she's dealing with more than just surviving murder. Yep. She is dealing with body issues, pain, chronic pain, PTSD. That's the obvious one.
She's a young woman.
It's a lot.
She's just in her late 20s too. What did I say? She was 27 years old.
27. Mm-hmm.
She gets a prescription for antidepressants. And she does start to realize that at this point, like, her job is not providing her with satisfaction anymore. And her performance is actually deteriorating since the attack, but her boss cares about her very much and is very understanding. So she does not get fired or anything at this point, and she hasn't left, but it does makes her feel guilty too. Mm-hmm. And then she's having nightmares every single night where she's drenched in sweat and frightened, and sometimes she just doesn't sleep, period.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And that makes you crazy, Charnell.
It does. 100%.
On December 29th, so we're going to go back now, when DeToy and Kruger had appeared in the magistrate's court. I just want to tell you what happened to them. I just talked to you about what was happening to her while we're waiting trial. I want to talk to you a little bit about what was happening with DeToy and Kruger waiting trial. They were ordered to undergo 30 days as a psychiatric evaluation at Valkenburg Psychiatric Hospital at Cape Town. During this time, they actually resided at Poolsmoor Prison. A week later, after they were being evaluated, it was ruled in their absence that they would be tried on all of the charges relating to their victims simultaneously.
Oh, okay.
There was still uncertainty at this point whether DeToy would have a separate trial for the girl that he raped alone.
Mm-hmm.
Toward the end of January, reporters got their eyes on a number of reports that had been handed to the court as part of the charge sheet. Now, those charge sheets are discoverable here.
Okay.
And some of the information was quite sensational.
Oh, no.
DeToy apparently had become involved in Satanism at the tender age of 13. This is our Franz. This is our older one. 26.
And when we say Satanism, do we mean the actual religion of Satanism or what is not Satanism?
We're going to talk about it later.
Okay.
But it is not. There are a number of schools of thought, as we're going to talk about Satanism a little bit here. And let's just suffice it to say that they're the ones who purport to be and dress up as the imposters, the ones who are not there for the hedonism part of it, although there's certainly hedonism involved in their actions.
Sure.
They're there for what the dime store cereal prize box version of what Satanism is.
Okay.
He felt that he had an evil side that was more prominent when inebriated, and described that while he was having sex, it was in his thoughts to kill. This is something that was reported in an article of Die Burger on January 28th of 1995. Kruger, on the other hand, Tierns, could not obtain enough sexual satisfaction since he could not always find a willing partner. Thinking he's the less good-looking of the two.
Yeah.
And he also had a little problem.
I was just going to say, also, I think he had some ED going on. Yeah.
He did not believe in God, but he said he believed in the devil, which, by the way, is not actually Satanism.
No.
Because they don't actually worship the devil. No. If you believe that part of the spiritual part of Satanism that was created, I think, in San Francisco in the early 60s.
It was.
I'll get to more to that too. It depends on how much y'all want to talk about Satanism, because we could do a whole podcast just on that piece.
You could. And there's also other variations from different countries and tribes that are just Africa. Misinterpreted.
Yep. And they're in South Africa. And I'm going to explain to you why they get some of their versions of why they believe that they're involved in Satanism. Okay. So Kruger, he says he doesn't believe in God but the devil, and he sports two nicknames.
Oh boy.
Damien, from the movie The Omen, where the little boy was the devil's son. If you've never seen it, because you don't watch horror movies.
No.
It's very good, by the way. And psychologically, you would quite enjoy it. And it's old
like
now.
A psychological thriller?
A little bit.
With some spook?
But the other one you'll know because his other nickname was Chucky.
Oh, now, let's not do that.
Based on the
Chucky.
murderous doll inhabited by the soul of a killer in Child's Play.
Yeah.
Those horror movies. I don't think you probably ever saw those either, but I quite enjoy them.
Well, I mean, not full on, no. Like, my siblings watched them, which is why
they called you
nicknamed
Chucky,
me that. Yeah. Yes.
So he describes not having feelings for anybody at all. He has no care, compassion, love, or like for anyone, although he did like one aunt that he had been living with because she gave him food and was friendly. Otherwise,
that's how low the bar is in his life?
Yes.
Someone who's friendly and gives him food is the only person that he doesn't hate in this world.
Correct.
Neat. Okay.
On March 23rd, both DeToy and Kruger pleaded guilty to 8 charges, including kidnapping, rape, and attempted murder, the most serious of those.
Okay.
Their attorney, Henry Lerm, read their plea explanation to the court. It detailed their attacks on the pregnant woman and on Alison. Remember, the pregnant woman's name is not disclosed.
Yes.
And if you do know it, don't tell me, because it wasn't in here, and clearly that's for a reason. Yeah. Alison wants to tell her story, and we respect that.
Yeah.
Regarding Alison, DeToy's statement included the following sections, also quoted in that newspaper Ooskop Die Burger on March 24th of 95. I just told her, sorry, when she pleaded with me not to kill her. I put my hands around her neck and squeezed. I strangled her until she went completely limp. And later, after he had described how Kruger made the initial cut to Alison's throat, which he did say, remember? Kruger cut it?
Yeah.
He said, I pushed Tierns away and cut her repeatedly across the throat. I probably cut her 20 to 30 times on the same place with a knife. While their lawyer was reading these chilling words, the two accused just sat there expressionlessly, revealing no emotion. But both of them did end their statements by saying they were sorry for what they'd done.
Really?
Interestingly, DeToy there, Franz, our older one, he pleaded not guilty to the 4 charges relating to a solo attack during February of the previous year. No one except DeToy, and perhaps his lawyer knows why, but he did decide to exercise his right to remain silent in that regard. So they made admissions on the one that the two of them were together.
Really was acting like he was dating her.
Isn't that interesting, Charnell?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Maybe he couldn't, in his own brain, bring himself to realize. She reported me?
Right.
I loved her.
Yes.
She loved me.
We were in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. It's never explained.
I think we just explained it.
I think we did too. If you guys care, we think we solved it psychologically. I am not an expert. I just have been here a minute. They appeared in court again on April 26th, and nothing of quote unquote legal significance happened. But it was interesting to note their demeanor, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Okay. I easily could have cut this out, but I want you to think about this. Both perpetrators seemed very relaxed, and they were sitting there talking with each other and speaking at length with DeToy's wife and brother-in-law.
What?
DeToy and his wife held hands, and periodically there was some laughter as they're having a little conversation. She gets to touch her husband's hand.
And they get to just share some chain talk, and bench talk.
And
what?
Yeah, and DeToy and Kruger, they didn't mind their pictures being taken during any of this either.
Of course they didn't.
DeToy's father-in-law, so that his wife's dad is there. He speaks with reporters afterward, and he said, and this is true, I don't want to not give this the credit that it deserved. His family was going through a very difficult time, and his daughter in particular was struggling. My daughter comes from a good family, he was quoted in Die Burger, April 27th, 95. It wasn't necessarily that something like this should have happened to her either.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad point. And yes, it comes across bad, and she's sitting there holding hands with a attempted murderer and a serial rapist, but she didn't do anything wrong, and she's technically a victim too, right?
Right, which is what he's trying to point out.
She's not a victim. She's also been victimized.
No,
let's put it that way.
Oh, that's really what I thought you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I meant, and I wanted to clarify. Because what I said there might rub some people really wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do get it. I mean, he especially elaborated she did not come from a bad family.
No.
And so what she's guilty of right now is having bad taste in men.
You didn't necessarily either. And I haven't told you about their backgrounds yet, but
have not.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
On May 30th, it was ruled that the trial would begin on June 12th in the Supreme Court. And this is where I told you it's different in South Africa. South Africa people,
this is very fast, by the way.
They do. I will give them that. They move shit along.
Yeah.
But I think it's because if you make admissions, I think in this magistrate's court where you're pleading guilty, you still get set for your trial. I'm assuming to preserve whatever rights. And it just probably goes faster because you've already made the initial statement, right?
Yeah, we don't have to collect
a bunch of evidence. It doesn't say anything, though, about his other trial, the one where he remained silent, that being the single rape, okay? Sure. So only this piece seems to have moved along fast.
Okay.
They were standing trial for multiple charges of robbery with aggravating circumstances. I love that they threw that in there. They took her rings and shit in her car.
Yes.
Abduction, indecent assault, rape, and attempted murder. On June 8th, less than a week before the trial would begin, DeToy held a press conference to discuss the influence that Satanism had had in his life and to warn others against the dangers of such involvement.
No one cares.
He reported that in Die Burger.
Wow.
Well, that Ooskop was interviewing him June 9th, 1995.
Let me deflect blame.
Well, let's get to that. He looked pretty relaxed and comfortable in the photos from that interview with an empty cake plate and a cup of coffee in front of him.
Who the fuck gave him cake?
He also revealed don't worry, Charnell, we're going to take care of all this problems, because he had an exorcism organized for the 10th.
Oh, good.
Interesting timing. So 2 days after his interview on the 8th and less than a week before the trial, he's got an exorcism.
Oh, how nice. How nice of them to squeeze that in. You didn't think that maybe you could have done that I don't know, a year ago?
Well, he seems to have known for a long time, because I'm going to
he says he's since 13, right?
No, that was Kruger.
Oh, my mistake.
We'll get to Detroit.
Okay.
Let's talk about this lovely pair, okay?
By the way, I wasn't aware that exorcisms were a part of when you're involved in any form of Satanism. Okay.
Well, it depends on whether or not you've been possessed and cursed by a witch, Charnell.
Oh, of course it does.
Okay.
Silly me.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Please, let me explain. Let's talk about sexual predators. Woohoo, my favorite.
Sure. Yes. Well, yes, let's.
Okay, let's be honest. Most sexual predators, most rapists, serial rapists, and rapist murderers, even our serial killers, they act alone.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, and they're rare. And I think we've even covered some of them on the podcast, and there are some real well-known ones from South Africa and from around the world. So in a article or a book entitled Obsession, according to a man by the name of John Douglas, I'm not going to pretend I know who he is, but I'm going to give him credit because I like his quote. He's talking about how, psychologically speaking, with sexual assault partners, right?
Yeah.
There's a dominant leader and a submissive follower.
Yes.
Always. It is readily apparent that Franz Detoy is the dom.
Yes.
And that Kruger is the sub or the follower in the commissions of those crimes. And this is evident not only during the commission itself, but it comes up later during the trial as well. Mm-hmm. Franz Adrian Detoy was 26 years old at the time of Alison's attack. He was the son of a police officer.
Wow.
Raised with Christian values. When he was in Standard 6, which is our 8th grade, he set fire to a dormitory because he claimed he was listening to heavy metal and he was influenced by hidden messages.
Okay, so we've started to see some psychological problems then. Adolescence.
And he's blaming his behavior already on things that he thinks are strange in the occult. Do you remember the day of heavy metal where they used to tell all the little Christian kids that the devil was sending messages in it, and if it listened to you backwards, it was telling you to do things?
Yes.
Was Robin Williams quoted in Good Morning Vietnam? Freddy's a devil.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I'm sorry, you guys, but it's bullshit.
It is.
There are ways psychologically to influence people.
Unless he really was hearing messages and truly having.
If he was hearing messages, though, right, that was him. That was his own influence or something off in his brain.
Yes.
It wasn't the type of music being performed. And I'm not going to say that there weren't Satanist and not the spiritual kind, but the devil worshiping kind in heavy metal during those time frames, because there was a lot of discussion about those type of bands and the influence that they wanted, and they liked chaos and they liked crazy and they liked hedonism and no rules.
Yes,
but most of them were now advocating murder, at least not out loud.
No.
Okay. So he gets expelled, and then his parents moved to another town the next year. And this time it was in Adelaide, 93 miles northeast of Port Elizabeth. And this is where he meets a girl who he claims was a witch.
Okay, cool.
She told him that she conducted rituals. And in her rituals, she could manifest demons. And at some point, Detoy claimed that in one of her rituals, he became possessed.
I just hate it when a witch gives witches bad names.
This is grade 8. I'm like, that's not what they do either.
Gosh,
well, she clearly wasn't practicing like real Wicca. Right. Again, and just so you know, I actually identify as a Christian.
Right.
But
same.
But we can have tolerance here on this podcast for other religions.
Absolutely.
And have family and close friends who practice those religions without fucking murdering anyone.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I can respect other people's beliefs without it offending my own.
I don't love that he is talking about this witch who professed to be a witch to him when they're in 6th and 7th grades, by the way.
Right.
I just feel like I'm watching The Craft all over again.
For sure.
And wait, that might have come out around that same time, by the way. Mm-hmm. That's when he became possessed. So he's been possessed for a long time. Since like the 7th grade.
God, what a... no, that's not possession. Your balls dropped.
He was lazy at school and he failed Standard 7, which was grade 9 twice. And I'm sure it's totally because he was possessed by a demon from his ex-witch girlfriend.
I'm sure.
And I don't know how to say that in any other way as a valid defense to murder, but I just said it.
Yep.
His parents then send him to the army, where he passed a total of 3 months of his time in the detention barracks while in the army.
I bet.
Then his parents help him. Let me repeat that. His parents help him. His parents help him. His parents enable him to obtain a job at a mine in Welcome in the Free State.
Oh, a mine?
A mine.
Oh.
Here, he married a woman and fathered a daughter.
Okay.
Then he leaves them because his wife didn't satisfy him sexually.
You mean because she was consenting to it?
I don't know. This is according to what he stated in his interview with Die Bürger Auskamp. This was on June 20th of 1995. So he moves to Port Elizabeth, where his parents, again, help him with employment.
Oh, God.
Gotta help my baby. This time as a driver for a chain of stationery shops. After he was fired from that, following a discovery that he'd stolen money, because this guy is a criminal, you guys. He is criminal thinking. He isn't, this isn't a mental illness at this point. Not one piece of this screams mental illness at this point in time. This is criminal thinking. He gets a suspended sentence of 3 years for the stolen money and getting fired from the stationery shop, and he opens a shebeen, selling alcohol illegally.
Okay.
That's the shebeen or sheben, however you want to pronounce it, that they go to where he's selling alcohol.
Okay.
Like so many sexual predators, his life was, the author here quotes, a succession of failures. In the meantime, though, in 1993, prior to the rapes that we're aware of, I would not be shocked if there were more.
Oh, there is more.
I wouldn't be shocked if he was raping his wife at home, by the way.
Yes.
He does marry his second wife, the one whom was holding his hand at the trial, and with whom he also has a son. So he has a daughter and a son. Psychologically, DuToit is described as something of a paradox, and he does exhibit many characteristics of being a psychopath.
Sure.
So there's a researcher, Robert Hare, who has researched psychopathy most of his life. And he actually has a learned article, a book called Without Conscience. And I'm going to go through this because it is incredibly interesting.
I would like to read that.
Me too. It identifies 12 characteristics which were used to develop a measure called the Psychopathy Checklist Revised. Resisting the temptation, this is a direct quote, by the way, I'm not making up all these fancy words. Resisting the temptation to digress into a thorough examination, the following characteristics are readily apparent in DuToit's psychological makeup. This is this man's assessment applying the psychopathy checklist, okay?
Sure.
1, he is glib and superficial, articulate, and speaks with ease. This was evident during the abductions of all the victims, and particularly in his testimony during the trial. 2, indications of narcissism and egocentricity shown through during the press conference and his testimony where he basked in all of the attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is also obvious in the photographs taken at various court appearances. 3, he never showed any empathy for others, not even the unborn baby of one of his victims during her violent sexual assault, and even not for the suffering of his wife during the trial while he posed for photographers.
Right.
When Alison pled for her life and he responded with a flat, sorry, and closed his fingers tightly around her throat. I don't even understand psychologically why he would have said sorry, to be honest with you. Maybe it made him feel better? Yeah. 4, lying came very easily to him. After all his arrests prior to Alison's attack, he lied to his wife about what he'd been apprehended for. She later testified to that.
Okay.
That's why we know. That's why I had some compassion for her. She did not know this was happening.
So when they were sitting giggling in the courtroom and holding hands, did she know at that point?
I do think that she did, yes.
That time she probably did. Yeah.
Okay. She's believing his lies.
Well, of
Charnell.
course. Hey, we had a victim, the sex trafficker's wife
absolutely.
episode. She was not privy to all the details.
No.
So she absolutely believed him
sure.
and defended him until she realized the truth.
Absolutely. Well, he easily concocted a story during Alison's abduction. Remember, he told her he has a friend that owes him money and stole his TV. He's adept at manipulation. That's evidence of his success at keeping his wife under a spell, despite everything she learned about him during the trial. Sometimes you read my mind. The press conference shortly before the trial is another example of that. 5, the hallmark of the psychopath is his complete lack of the facility to feel guilt.
Yeah.
Never once was DuToit able to express anything close to remorse. He described his efforts to kill Alison happily, joyfully.
Yes.
Sexually motivated. first with his hands and then with a knife, and then with no indication of emotion, sorrow, or even shame. He says it's explained that the only tiny expression he had of shame during the entire trial is when he bowed his head because his mom testified. Okay. 6, his impulsivity was apparent on the night of Alison's attack. In the middle of a barbecue, he just left the meat on the grill and went in search of a woman to rape. 7, no sense of responsibility is evident in Dutoy's past anywhere. 3 months in detention during a stint in the Army. Of course, we left out the fact that he burned down some things and blamed
it on, you're right, no sense of responsibility.
Oh, we're going to get there, right? So he leaves his wife, detention in the Army, leaves his wife and child because the sex wasn't to his liking, steals money from his employer, loses another job, then gets another wife and another child support, and then he never accepts responsibility for the crimes because he blames everything on a demon. But don't worry, I'm going to have it exorcised.
Right.
He blames the witch. From when he was 7 in 7th grade or 8th grade.
Right.
8. His problematic behavior was already evident during childhood. We've already brought that up. Burning the dormitory, but also drinking and even getting involved in Satanism. Since he was thinking that Satanism was this particular thing,
true devil
he
worship.
Intentionally got involved in that, in true devil worship.
Like I'm going to sacrifice.
And that's what it should be called.
Type of Satanism.
Personally, I think that particular religion or cult or whatever you want to call it of Satanism, they could have named themselves better.
They could have.
Because hedonism's a thing.
It is.
Okay.
Well, and devil worship is a thing.
And devil worship's a thing. And unfortunately, all of those things get lumped together under Satanism.
Well, that would be because there was a deity named Satan. That's not the Satan that Christians know. And
Lucifer, fallen angel. Yeah. We know
that's
him.
Where it was actually truly the spiritual Satanism was derived from. Not the sacrificial, violent, evil. Like,
or what we know as the devil.
The devil, right. Unfortunate name, same names.
It would be better to explain other than Satanism that they were actually worshiping the devil in the Christian sense of God and the devil.
Exactly.
That's
because
the better way.
That is the traditional Satanism that people think of and know about.
And last and not least is number 9, and that's just his adult antisocial behavior, which I really don't think I need to explain because it's pretty evident.
Yeah.
What makes Dutoy interesting in the author's opinion, basing it off of those criteria for being a psychopath, is that he conforms most closely to what is known as a power reassurance rapist, but with some really weird divergences. So an expert by the name of John Douglas, who's an expert in the types of rapists that exist, he describes a power reassurance rapist as having a deep sense of inferiority, which he tries to assuage by raping women. It is his fantasy that she will be impressed by him sexually and will actually come to enjoy the experience. This is making sense, right?
It is.
He actually treats her relatively, quote unquote, well, with minimal violence, since this would break down his fantasy.
It would.
It is consistent, right?
Yep.
He will engage in conversation with her both during and after the attack, usually refraining from profanity and often inquiring whether she likes what he's doing. This has led to the moniker of a power reassurance rapist as being called the gentleman rapist. Fucking hate that term, but it's used.
I don't love that.
However,
I have heard it before, but I don't love it.
His concern, though, it's not for her experience, but rather for the attention to his struggling self-esteem. So quoting John Douglas, he prefers to use a surprise attack, having a weapon handy, although he seldom uses it. That would be the gun.
Yeah.
This time he used a knife, remember. The woman is usually instructed to remove her own clothes, as this fits the fantasy of consensual sex.
It does.
You took it off for me, baby.
Right, exactly. We are in a relationship.
Absolutely. Attacks may be protracted, during which he may have intimate and familiar conversations with the victims. And afterwards, he might apologize.
Or give them a rose and a meal.
And tell them then I hope he can,
make it up to
her in the future somehow.
Exactly. Which means I hope we could do this again sometime.
Dutoy exhibits many of the behaviors during the 3 rapes that we know of. So he surprised all the victims in their cars.
Yeah.
He brandished a weapon, actually used guns in the first 2, knife for Alison. He speaks with them in a friendly fashion, telling the first one about his sister, and he apologized to her after letting her go. And
without real remorse, though, by the way.
No, that one, it was very almost, again, like it was a date. Like he dropped off his date after a nice night out. Because of his specific needs, the first victims attempt to humanize herself by telling him about her failed miserably, really, in terms of the rape.
Because of the type of rapist he
is.
is.
It strengthened his fantasy.
It did, yeah.
During Alison's rape, he asked her whether her boyfriend also performed cunnilingus on her and whether she liked it.
Right.
He was mostly polite. He was crude with his choice of words when he ordered her to provide unconsensual fellatio on him.
Right.
But then, remember, he asked Kruger whether he wants to have sex with this lovely lady. And when Kruger replies rudely, he tells him that Alison is a lady and he shouldn't speak to her in that manner. He gets mad.
Mad because it was ruining his fantasy.
Well, that violence there, when he gets mad, I think he got mad at his partner. It escalates. And this is when, as Kruger's like, well, what are we going to do with her then? He freaks the fuck out and he starts to strangle her. That kind of violence that he perpetrated on Alison is completely unlike the reassurance rapist typical behavior. So that piece there where that happened. But he also
remember, he'd also been fighting with his wife just before this. He left that barbecue fighting with his wife, wanting to go find a nice lady to do this to.
And reassurance rapists actually also tend to work alone, which may influence the amount of violence in the crime. This time, when you're working with somebody, I think your crimes actually tend to be more violent, and they certainly were here. I do think that the ones that they worked together on were the two that they were actively on, the one that they were actively on bond for, and Alison. I don't know that the two of them had actually conspired before these two. I think that he was acting as a reassurance rapist, the gentleman rapist, and has been raping women for quite some time. And I don't think that Kruger was doing that at that point in time.
No,
until
I don't think so either.
Him.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell you about Kruger.
Okay.
Tierns Johannes Kruger was 19 when he participated in Alison's attack. His father had actually left his mother shortly after she got pregnant and then went on to be incarcerated himself. Okay. He did not come from a good family.
Yeah.
Remember,
that does not surprise me because wasn't he the one that said he only liked his aunt who was nice to him?
He
and
liked
fed
nobody.
him?
Very flat. Yes.
Yeah.
DeToy had a loving and supportive family. And in fact, they really enabled him and helped him get into private schools and militaries. And
which is why he had no problem blaming other things for all of his decisions. But I can see for Kruger.
So Krugers are typical, like, it's like I'm beginning to tell you about one of our serial killers, okay?
Yeah.
Mom goes on to marry another dubious man. Sure. He stays just along to provide Tierns with his name. She, the last name. She marries again. They moved to Tsitsikamma.
Okay.
Is described as a breathtaking stretch of forest next to the southeastern coast. Well, apparently the new stepfather, incredibly violent.
I was just going to say, so which stepdaddy was violent?
And that violence was frequently visited on the boy, on him. While in prison, Kruger received a letter from his mother. This is after he's in prison for the crimes that he committed, inquiring, and I don't know if this is for publicity, but his mom writes him a letter while he's in prison on these offenses against Alison and the other pregnant young lady. And she wonders whether he was ever molested by his stepfather. And he said yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether or not this is true, per the author, remains uncertain. There's no proof.
Really wouldn't surprise me.
It fits the profile, though, doesn't it? So I have a tendency to believe that too. And also I'm one that I believe that when somebody tells you that there's been some type of a sexual assault or a molestation, it's probably more likely than not true. It is not, however, an excuse or mitigating, in my opinion, for you going on to commit additional offenses.
Also explains more why he's this submissive.
When he does mention this, the stepfather responds in question by stating he's going to sue them for defamation. Okay. So he does not agree with what
he doesn't want to catch any extra charges while he's in there.
Or become real famous in the newspaper that he's the reason that all of this person becomes a psychopath and rapes and murders women.
You mean while he's incarcerated and then gets off?
It's clearly true. He did not have a happy childhood. He actually, this is your profile of a true, like, this antisocial character, okay? The other one's scary. A psychopath. Kruger is not a psychopath. Kruger is a product of his environment that could have gone either way. He contemplated suicide multiple times, and I think he may have attempted at least one occasion. At school, the other kids called him Dreitit, which means 3 tits, because he had a third nipple.
Oh, okay.
It didn't seem that he really found acceptance anywhere.
Sure.
The kids hate him. He's not close to his family. I think his mom's possibly not protecting him from sexual abuse. He got beat by his dad, or at least the man that gave him his last name. He gets involved in drugs and alcohol. Yep. And in Standard 8, which is our grade 10 as a sophomore, he actually quit school, and he also joined the Army. Then he has what I can only describe as an experience so similar to DeToy that it's hard to fathom that they were actually separate events, because in early 1994, he had an intense sexual relationship with a satanic witch.
No shit.
He did. Weird, huh?
Okay.
And this was quoted in testimony in Die Bürger Auskamp. This was put in that magazine or newspaper on August 1st of 95. But it is an interesting coincidence that both men got seduced into Satanism by witches.
Yeah, interesting.
Now, his was very sexually motivated, and DeToy's was a possession, demonic possession.
A demonic possession.
So there's that distinction.
Okay.
So take that for what it's worth.
Okay.
Kruger's mom later told the newspaper Die Bürger, this was August 10th, so about 10 days after his statement to them, that he was, quote unquote, a dear child. We had fun playing together as a mother and child do. She went on to blame his troubles on his stepfather and the wrong kinds of friends. Still, she had never heard from her son after he left school in 10th grade until she saw him in prison when he was 19.
Oh, wow. Well, she's stand up. Also,
wasn't interested until he was in prison.
Do you catch those tones about how she's blaming everybody else besides herself for how he turned out?
Yep.
Okay.
Interesting to note, her 2 other daughters, he does have sisters. Yeah, they don't maintain contact with her either.
Imagine that.
So there's clearly some truth to how they were raised.
And can you, I'm not defending Kruger at all, but could you imagine, I know he met, what's his nuts there? Why am I blanking on his name? He met DeToy at the liquor place, right?
Yeah. So
while he was selling him liquor, he got into drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
And I mean, and isn't it just, it absolutely tracks that he's going to follow and be the follower of this 26-year-old man.
Not only did you hit that on the head, so he meets DeToy because he goes to this guy's shebeen so he can buy illegal alcohol.
Of course.
That was only in June of 1994.
Yeah,
they'd really only known each other for a couple of months.
Yep. He's loving the attention that he's getting from this man.
That's only 4 months after the first rape.
Yeah.
They become friends, and Kruger frequently confides in the 26-year-old man, DeToy.
Sure.
A psychiatrist who later evaluates Kruger at the Elizabeth Duncan Hospital in Port Elizabeth testified that Kruger suffered from a very low self-image and seemed to be easily influenced.
Of course.
DeToy told him more about Satan's and demons, and Kruger said that he would like to obtain the power of a demon.
Sure. Because he'd like to have some power in his life at all.
Correct.
And here this 26-year-old man is telling him exactly where he can get it and giving him attention.
And a partnership is formed.
And remember, DeToy is manipulative. It's one of his major
literally quote, DeToy, the conscience-free manipulator.
Yes.
Kruger, the acceptance-seeking and impressionable misfit.
Yes.
In I Have Lived the Monster, a book written by Robert Russler, he argues that in such partnerships, one is the leader, dominant and organized, and the other is the follower, inclined to be submissive and more disorganized. The fantasies of both men are appeased by the crimes they're committing together in terms of what they want to get out of it.
Absolutely. You realize they're feeding each other self-esteem issues, right?
Well,
and egos.
Yes. Sometimes it's actually the rather submissive partner who actually kills the victim. And that was, I think, what was going to happen here when he slit her throat, he being Kruger.
100%.
But then DeToy freaks out because he's got to be in fucking control.
Got to have the power.
So he starts slashing the shit over his new girlfriend. I think they're all his girlfriends.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, I agree.
And DeToy clearly has maintained his dominance throughout this. He chose the victim. He performs the initial approach. He gives the orders. After he stabs Alison, Kruger was undoubtedly excited by the blood because he did stab her in the stomach. This is when he takes over because he wants the murder part of it, right? He wants to be the part of the power and the taking of the life. So he takes his knife and he cuts his throat. But then DeToy shoves him aside and goes berserk, according to his own testimony and Kruger's. Cuts her throat again and again because he needs control. He has to kill, and he wasn't going to let his partner have that part.
And remember, he also raped her first and then offered her to his partner.
Clearly the case that other time, too, when he raped a pregnant woman. He rapes her. Then he has Kruger rape her, which apparently he was able to accomplish this time. Then he orders some oral sex, and then he rapes her again when she gags because she can't do it.
Right. Exactly. You know, this is like pack mentality. You know, the leader of the pack does get to feed on the kill first and then offer
You're right.
to the rest.
You're right.
This is very animalistic to me.
The Supreme Court trial begins of what they called the Ripper Rapists. Franz DeToy and Terence Kruger had become known. as reparatus. That began on June 12th, 1995, before Mr. Justice Chris Jansen. The morning started with Henry Lerm, who had been the attorney up until then, stating he could no longer represent them. He cited ethical reasons.
I bet. Yeah.
But the exact nature of those ethical reasons was and remains unknown. What I could not find anywhere, and it still bothers me and always will, is whether they replaced him as an attorney or not, because they don't say, because the trial continues. I think they denied him.
Yeah. Wow.
The first witness is the 20-year-old student whom DeToy had raped on his own.
Yep.
Okay. Judge Jansen found DeToy guilty of the 4 charges, and those are the charges he had never admitted to.
Right.
2 counts of rape and 1 each of indecent assault and abduction. He found him guilty the same day. So this is not like a jury here.
Yep.
Okay. This is the justices. The same day, the sentencing, though, did not occur that day. It occurred in conjunction with the other charges.
Oh, okay.
So that happened the first day, and then the trial continues. So Alison attends court every day, but she wasn't allowed inside. Of course, she was sequestered until after her testimony.
Right.
So she did have to spend the first couple of days in the waiting room. On June 13th, so the 12th is when DeToy is convicted of the first one that Kruger's not involved in. On June 13th, the pregnant woman testified, and then it was Alison's turn. The prosecutor was Grant Buckner. He guided her through the attack as well as the damage that had been caused to her physically and emotionally, which is why I brought so much of it up earlier, because it was all disclosed during trial. Tian, this is her savior. This is our former vet student who had since completed a course as a paramedic and had decided to become a doctor of people rather than animals, came next.
No shit.
I had to put the good news in.
Oh, yes. Yep. He really was her earth angel,
Yep.
and then she was his guide for where he's supposed to end up.
So now he is saving people instead of animals. Not that animals aren't important, but, the human animal is very important to me.
It is, and rightfully so, how calm he stayed. That's perfect.
And then finally, Dr. Angelov was called to the stand, and he described her wounds, the intricate surgeries he had to perform, and he did say at one point, usually they don't make it to me. To be honest, it's a miracle that I'm standing here and not the pathologist.
Yes.
He is telling the judge that the pathologist should be here telling you about all of her wounds and why she died, not how I was able to save her.
Yeah.
He admitted he could not explain the fact that she had survived. It was simply a miracle.
Absolutely. Well, and I think I said that in part 1 of, he's never seen this in his 16 years because they go to the morgue, not to the OR.
There was another woman who testified. This woman who we've not heard about before, this is one of those past bad acts evidence things. This is eerie and scary. She describes how she had only barely managed to avoid being Alison. At 12:30 p.m. on December 16th, 1994, she was looking for parking outside a friend's flat. Sound familiar?
Uh-huh.
She noticed 2 men watching her and she felt uncomfortable, but she parked anyway. As she looked up after removing the faceplate of her car radio, you remember when you used to take the faceplate off? Okay.
Yes.
I know that us people that remember from the 90s remember that. Their images reflected in the rearview mirror. And the one that she later recognized as DeToy was next to her door with one hand on the handle and the other beneath his shirt. He looked away for a moment and she snatched that opportunity and slammed the lockdown on her door.
Wow.
DeToy called to the other man, Kruger, and they walked off after she locked him out of her fucking car.
Wow, she was almost Alison.
When the details of Alison's attack came out, she actually contacted Detective Humple and pointed out.
Oh, good.
What happened? She also identified both men in the identification parade.
Good.
Judge Jansen found...
So that's the 16th. She was attacked the 17th.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Judge Jansen found Franz DeToy and Terence Kruger guilty on all charges. These were abduction, indecent assault, and rape in relation to the attack on the pregnant woman, and abduction, indecent assault, rape, attempted murder, and robbery with aggravating circumstances in relation to the attack on Alison. Same things that they pled to. Actually, it might be a couple extras. Sentencing would be deferred until litigating and mitigating testimony were heard. So that's the next step in their criminal justice system is they have a mitigating and aggravating testimony hearing before sentencing.
To determine sentencing.
Yes.
Okay.
So the first of those to testify was Dr. Jillian Smale. This is at the aggravating testimony part, who had previously examined all 3 victims. She described the dynamics of rape trauma syndrome in general. This is so good for this community to be hearing right now. The fact that they were even willing, these women, to get on the stand and have their intimate cases prosecuted probably has saved many women since then and changed the face of how the criminal justice system and the court system sees these cases. She talks about the testimony that she gave, I can't give you examples of it because it was so highly personal. They actually allowed those proceedings in camera, which means in the judge's office only. Yeah. And it's something that we actually don't really do here. Anything that comes up that you need to take into consideration for sentencing is actually pretty public. Okay. So the fact that they do that, it might be a piece of the criminal justice system that I actually like there.
Yeah.
Then Franz DeToy takes the stand because the convicted defendants actually take the stand in these hearings.
Interesting.
He described his disappointing past and his involvement in Satanism.
So this gives them a chance to blame others for their behavior for their sentencing.
Gosh, I love you sometimes in terms of the quotes I'm going to give you in a minute. As expected, he placed the blame for his actions on a demon.
Imagine that.
An incubus, he claimed.
Yes, it's always an incubus or a succubus.
He said it was an incubus who had told him to rape all the women and who had told him to kill Alison. I, incubus, want her dead, according to his testimony that was reported in Die Bürger. That was June 20th, 95. What's very interesting about his testimony is that he kept downplaying Kruger's involvement. His partners, the younger man, initially...
That's because he wants the power. He already knows he's screwed.
Yeah.
He can't help himself.
He said that the younger man actually thought Alison was a friend and was later shocked after he had strangled her.
Okay.
That's not what...
Kruger said at all.
When he was by himself in the first interviewed before DeToy, before he even knew Alison was dead.
Right.
That's when we got the real information.
Yeah.
This is a weird lie.
It is.
DeToy also described how Kruger used the hunting knife he had cut Alison's throat with the next morning to prepare breakfast while there was still blood on the blade. And Kruger was very impressed with it, as DeToy was also quoted.
Oh my gosh. Again, that power, that...
Yeah.
Then...
it's
bragging.
He's gross.
Bragging.
This person, this is evil. This is evil.
It is.
DeToy continues to describe the rapes, the beatings, the stabbings, and the cutting as if he was recounting a trip to the post office. No emotion.
No, not a trip to the post office. How you and I would talk about our lovely vacation. But he's enjoying this.
But he did remember to include how he didn't have the words to describe how sorry he was.
Of course not, because he's not sorry. That's why he doesn't have the words to describe it.
He did find some, though. The words he said in specific reference to Alison were, I don't know how I'll ever be able to forgive myself.
Oh, Jesus criminy.
Well, he used his I statements.
He did. Yes, as narcissists will. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
I don't think this is shocking. Kruger chose not to testify.
Good boy. Yeah, that's probably smart.
But DeToy's wife did, and she tearfully told the court that she still loved her husband. She repeated the lies that he told her about every crime, but she chose to believe that he had those things in him which caused him to commit the rapes.
She's believing the demon.
She's believing the demon.
It was and I want to point something out for all of you that right now.
Yeah.
That is her brain trying to protect
her trauma.
Her.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Well,
just like
Alison's
Alison.
brain. Yeah.
Yes. In the beginning, when she kept justifying that they're not going to hurt me if I just do this, or justifying I don't need to jump out and make them mad because they could hurt me more. Okay. Her brain in those statements is doing the same thing.
Okay. So remember when I told you that the only time he showed any remorse was when his mommy testified?
Yeah.
That's when he hung his head and he showed a little emotion.
Listen, it's real deep there, those familial bonds and the mother-child bond. We don't like to disappoint our parents, even no matter how evil we are or how evil they are.
Yeah. Well, a number of people also testified about the demon defense.
Great.
On June,
can't wait to hear this.
I'm just going to skip over it. Actually, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but I'm going to skip over it for now because there is no demon defense, Charnell.
There's not. But did they find demon experts to testify?
Well, they did an exorcism. Would you like to talk about that in a moment?
I want to know.
But first, can I give you some good news?
Please.
On June 21st, the pregnant woman, the victim of the crime, gave birth to a healthy baby daughter. And they described it that the little girl's umbilical cord was tied around her neck and she had to fight to breathe. But like her mama, she found the strength to survive. And it was just, I like that they reported something good here.
Yes. Oh, happy news.
The trial resumed a week later because that's
after
June 21st.
She gave birth.
Yeah, she had to give birth.
Bless her heart.
A police chaplain described DeToy, Franz there, as a different person. Do you know what happened?
I want to know.
He found Jesus.
Of course he did.
They always find Jesus in jail, Charnell. He found Jesus right under his bed.
I love that jail Jesus.
Well, he was quite...
He's powerful.
This police chaplain
Well, now he's demon free.
He was.
We have no demons. Jesus can come in.
He was quite optimistic about DeToy's new chosen career path as a prison evangelist.
Shut your
So much
face.
happened in that week.
Wow. Well, listen. God created the earth in 7 days so he can exorcise a demon and find Jesus in 7 days.
Jesus under his bunk in a prison in South Africa, clearly where Jesus would probably hide.
Under his bunk. Listen, the Bible says he can be anywhere.
And everywhere.
Yeah, so he's under that bunk.
Yeah. Psychologist
Tiny
Ian Meyer.
Jesus. You've been there all along.
Tiny Jesus. He'd been there all along. So a psychologist named Ian Meyer, his description of Kruger's past and present, well, it wasn't as encouraging as the prison chaplain's.
I bet not.
But he nevertheless ended by stating his belief that Kruger could be rehabilitated. So they did have a psychologist come in who said, yeah,
Kruger, sure.
I think Kruger could be,
Yeah.
Yes. So not DeToy, but Kruger. So Kruger doesn't have a great past. Those are
Right.
static factors. You can't change them.
Yeah.
And his present's not real great either. That's what they're saying. But he actually made a statement too, that he could be rehabilitated. He says Kruger, quote unquote, had empathy with his rape victims and remorse for what he'd done. I call it bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's shown any remorse either.
No.
He might have been more honest, but he didn't show any remorse.
Right.
Of course, this is a statement made by the author of this article. Again, that is, I'm going to remind you, it was Martin Strom, because I didn't give credit to him in this part too. He says, of course, both priests and psychologists are trained to believe in humankind's ability to be redeemed or to redeem themselves, respectively. Otherwise, the jobs would be irrelevant.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah,
So
good
he's
point.
not saying that you aren't important priests and psychologists, but you guys are trained to see what could happen. I mean, psychologists everywhere are employed to determine recidivism to some extent. So this is a really learned and experienced thing that they're doing. But most of the time, it's hard to come in as a psychologist and say, yeah, there's no fucking fixing him.
Well, right. Exactly.
But I appreciate the ones that are honest and say it.
Yeah.
Let's go to sentencing. On August 7th, 1995, Mr. Justice Chris Jansen, I love how they announce their judges there, told the two accused that he had strong reservations about the sincerity of their remorse and that their crimes had been premeditated and planned.
Yeah.
He described the attack on Alison as, quote, unquote, a boy walking with a slingshot shooting birds just to kill him.
Yeah.
Their claims of demonic possession had made little impression on the judge, and he stated that it would be, quote unquote, a sad day when this religion serves as a mitigating factor.
Yeah.
When
I love that.
it's going to be a sad day when somebody actually believes that your version of Satanism or demonic possession is a mitigating factor in a murder or an attempted murder.
Right.
Good for you, Mr. Justice Chris Jansen.
Yes, exactly.
It was the
Can
court's...
we get an applause?
Yes. It was the court's responsibility to remove these two men from society forever, he said. Therefore, he sentenced Franz DeToy to 3 terms of life imprisonment, 1 for the charges related to each attack.
Good.
Tierns Kruger received 25 years for the rape of the pregnant woman and a life sentence for the attack on Alison.
Good.
There is no death penalty in South Africa, just to
Right.
be clear.
Right.
The judge
Wow,
continued.
3 life sentences.
Yes.
That means when you come back the next 2 times, buddy, guess what? You're still in prison.
Or in a few months. Let's talk.
Oh, God.
He continued to order that the copies of the sentences be placed inside each man's prison record so the authorities would know that the judge wanted them to be in prison for the rest of their natural lives.
Okay.
Dyberger, on August 8th, 1995, reported that in that paper. The 3 survivors leave the courtroom emotionally drained, but relieved and very satisfied that justice had been done. And
Sure.
DeToy's wife, she left in tears because she believes him. But Kruger, our little antisocial fella there,
Yeah.
he leaves with a bang on the wall and yells as reported in the newspaper, well, here we go. Fuck you all.
Oh, okay.
So much for empathy for his rape victims and remorse for what he'd done.
Right.
Direct quote of the author here. From the observation. there.
Exactly.
Let's talk briefly.
Did he
even though
really not think he was going to get life? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Was he hopeful that he wouldn't? Oh.
I don't know. So the whole devil made me do it thing. Let's talk about it for a minute, even though I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But first, let's talk about, just briefly for those of you that don't know out there, we've covered this on podcasts before, but some of you might be new listeners. The Church of Satan was founded by Anton LaVey in 1966 in San Francisco. He's an avid researcher, writer. He was well educated. I mean, and this other researcher, Gavin Baddeley, he's a Satanist, and he studies and tries to explain Satanism to people. And he really tries to dispel, like you've explained on podcasts before, the evil connotation of Satanism with rational argument. So he's talking about how Satanism, as practiced by the actual Church of Satan, does not entail the worshiping of Satan as an entity, but rather the pursuit of pleasure and want without the restraints of guilt and sin. So he's saying, and I know that there's people who are skeptical, but he's denouncing formally in terms of what the Church of Satan is, that they do ritual abuse, that they do ritual sacrifice, that's Christian propaganda. I actually don't know that's Christian propaganda. I think that it's a Christian response to people who do practice Satanism in the form of rituals and have deviated from that particular religion or whatever you want to call it.
Belief
that was
system.
Completed.
Right.
There, thank you. Belief system.
100%. There are deviations, just like there are different denominations in Christianity. And yes, some of them have taken it to a perversion and do those sacrifices.
And I think part of the problem is the sensationalism piece that you've mentioned. And that's, if Satanism is actually just pursuit of pleasure, then why is there all this evil symbolism? Like, why does the cover of LaVey, who's the founder of the Church of Satan in San Francisco in 1966, have an upside down pentagram with the satanic goat Baphomet inside of it, right? Well, because they're talking about demons and rituals and magic and using the correct wording. And there's even a prayer to Satan, which they think is strange, because if you're not actually worshiping an entity, why is there a prayer in there? So that's why some people just call bullshit on the whole thing, Charnell. I think that certainly. I think that this is a group of people, and how they're feeling with this demonism and Satanism being used as some type of a mitigating factor in these things. This is more actual cult behavior than a religion.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you can disagree with me out there, but I'm just going to go with kind of how I'm feeling at this point in time. Because here, let me just say it. If your whole aim for your religion is unfettered, pursuit of pleasure, then why not just say this is the church of hedonism? This is the church of Dionysus, of Bacchus, of sex with whomever you want, drinking all the wine and eating all the food with no remorse.
Right. Just having
that is your church.
No limitations.
That is your practice.
No limitations whatsoever. And I will point out too that there are other cultures that practice their version. It's not this what did you call it?
The Church of
Satan.
From 1966.
No,
you're going way back.
Yes.
We're talking the beginning of time with different religions, possibly, probably Africa and Australia, and with indigenous populations. I mean, we have Vodun and voodoo, as you call it now, with your Creole Haitians and brought even into the United States. And there are a section of people who consider that satanic.
Exactly.
And it's not.
Exactly.
Voodoo is not worshiping Satan.
And we've actually covered some, it was another South Africa case actually that wanted to blame Satanism as well. Their different version.
I was talking about the two guys too that tried to kill the woman and also left her.
Yes.
There's
also
the child
Kruger's Dorp.
That's the one. Kruger's Dorp murders.
Yep. And so, I'm not as familiar with this Church of Satan one. I have heard the founder's name before and whatnot, but there's different variations. But I do believe that this one is what in America caused satanic panic.
It did. And I think to some extent here. So let's just cut to the chase with the whole devil made me do it. This author believes, and I agree, DeToy and Kruger, neither one of them belonged to any formal or even informal satanic group.
Absolutely. Okay? I was going to say that
They believed in the ideologies of Satanism as they interpreted them.
Yes.
They didn't have any leaders. No. They were practicing a religion.
No, they were not involved in any group on a regularity.
They wore black and wore pentagrams on their shirt and pretended that was what their practice was.
They're like a 7th grader that comes to school with too much eyeliner, wearing all black and saying, I'm goth now.
Oh my God, I have one of those.
I know.
And then you just let them.
You do.
Do what you want to do, honey. You look great in black. It's my favorite color.
But they don't really know what they mean by I'm goth now. Now it's emu. Emo. Did I say emu?
Emu's an animal.
It is.
I'm feeling emo today.
It was a Liberty Mutual commercial. Yes, but no.
So let me talk about that Detoy, where he claims that in 1985, it was during a ritual that was conducted by the witch he'd met in Adelaide. This is where the demon takes possession of him. Yeah, I told you I was going to give you demonic possession this episode.
And I'm just
and we're getting close to the end, but enjoy.
We only give power to things that we give power to. Oh, things only have power over us that we give power to.
Any demon that ever attempted to possess my body would leave as soon as I had to stretch in the morning. It would be like, what is happening here? Everything hurts. I don't know what's going on. I can't sleep. I feel crazy. My legs are jumping. What's happening?
I'm too high vibrational for demons. They can't even, they're just like, oh no.
Oh, dude, they bounce right off you.
They do.
Like a rubber ball.
Absolutely.
Well, the demon that he was calling incubus spoke to him. Guys, if anybody likes to read like smut, like I do sometimes, you have like your incubus and your succubus. Well, your incubus is like your male, and then it's like, trying to give it to you. And then the succubus is trying to suck it out of you. And that's the female version, like whatever.
I know. We've talked about incubus and succubus before.
It's speaking inside his head, and it would sometimes give him orders.
Sure.
To have violent sex. Mm-hmm. This is also reported in that Die Burger, which must be just a great magazine or a great newspaper over there that as it formerly existed. The demon, according to Detoy, made him attractive to women.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he thought so. Yeah, you only have to fucking kidnap them and rape them, honey. They don't find you attractive.
No.
But he did manage to get 2 wives.
That's his narcissism. Listen, I know a lot of people that have had up to 5 wives, and they're not good looking. Maybe it's the incubus in them. Perhaps.
I don't think that Detoy was taking into consideration as he's finding how Alison was attracted to him. He must not remember the part where she literally had to put her hands on the car ceiling where he's raping her just so she doesn't have to touch it. Okay? Mm-hmm.
And was gagging.
And
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So June 10th of 1995, if you recall correctly, I'm going to jump you way back. This is after he made some of his admissions and had his little interview with his coffee and his cake plate.
Is this 2 days after his exorcism?
Before this is before the sentencing. Okay. June 10th is the exorcism.
Okay.
Sergeant James Lottering of the Occult-Related Crimes Unit. I want to work for one of those.
Me too.
I didn't know it was a thing. The Occult-Related Crimes Unit in the Eastern Cape, that means they have a problem.
Yes, I was just going to say that. They have a whole division, you guys.
Worship and religion-based, that they have a whole division, okay? If this gives us any insight into what we're dealing with here.
Okay, so this explains how both of these men actually found a witch.
Yes.
Because obviously you can't swing a dead cat without hitting one. Okay.
And that's fine. And I actually might believe that, but I have a hard time believing that all these witches are malicious.
Oh, for sure.
So he contacts Pastor Arthur Frost of the World of Faith Christian Center to conduct the proceedings.
Okay.
In all, 7 people other than Detoy attend, and the event is videotaped. Sergeant Lottering testified that a demon did in fact manifest during the exorcism, and 5 people had to push Detoy down on a chair. Detoy became, quote-unquote, wild and aggressive, and he cursed and he swore. Chaplain Jacobus Kruger, different relation, but same last name, also attended, and he testified that Detoy was not able to say the word Christ. Because demons, they can't say the big JC.
They can't? Oh, that...
Pastor Frost testified that Detoy was indeed possessed and that a demon spoke during the proceedings and they were able to successfully exorcise it. He also testified that the possessed person can still deny a demon's suggestions or orders. So keep this in mind.
Right.
So
you want to know why? Because the number 1 divine law is free will, always.
Right. So if the demon took control of the possessed person, which he said is possible, the person would maybe sometimes feel like they're in a trance and they wouldn't actually have a clear memory of the period of time. But Detoy had on numerous occasions recounted the details very specifically of the chat.
Sure had. By his own free will, he did
and his own unfolded eyes.
Yep.
Okay? So if he was possessed by a demon, and I know some people believe that, that is possible. Even this pastor is saying, yeah, but you don't have to follow the suggestions or orders. And if you were under the actual influence of somebody, you would have those lapses. And this guy clearly knew what he was doing.
Absolutely. And he remembered and retained all of it. Free will.
Yes. So Colonel Cobus Jonker, I think, he's the national head of the occult-related crimes unit. I have to talk about this because it's the coolest thing I've ever heard in terms of a crimes unit. He has serious doubts about the authenticity of demonic involvement in the attack on Alison, and he reiterates Pastor Frost's contention that possessed persons retain freedom of choice and that complete demonic control would result in memory loss in terms of what they've seen before. He said this was premeditated and these were planned, all the nature of both of these rapes that they were involved with.
Like I said, the number one divine law that doesn't change amongst belief systems.
He also said that in his opinion, because apparently the occult-related crimes unit, is that like the Rest in Peace unit? Do you remember that movie, R.I.P. unit with, okay. Anyway, he says, demons aren't picky. If you're possessed by one, you're not going to act that way to some women and not to others. So the demon would have had violent sex and been raping his wife as well. Mm-hmm. DeToy testified that he was lying next to his wife when the demon told him to rape the second victim, apparently, and would not have requested a pretty woman to rape and kill, as DeToy had testified regarding Allison's attack. Mm-hmm. Okay? Right. So he's choosing to go find other women to rape.
Listen, even if he was possessed by a demon, and we're saying that, hey, we witnessed during this exorcism that he got one, it does not make him that any less culpable for his actions.
The devil made me do it. It's not going to ever work as a defense if you want to trust these experts, and I think I want to trust these experts. Sure.
Also, you know what? Who's to say there's not a little demon in all of us? Mm-hmm. All right. If you laid me on an exorcism board, something might come out. I don't know. Probably not. It would probably be cute and pink and shit. But just saying, guys, it's an aspect of their personality.
So the author of where I have most of my sources here, then Martin Strom, I love what he says here because he just agrees with everything you and I just said. And that is that this was just one more way to deny responsibility for one's actions.
Yes.
It's not my fault she was wearing sexy clothes.
Yes.
It's not my fault her bedroom window was wide open. Mm-hmm. It's not my fault the gun went off. It's not my fault I was high on drugs.
Yeah.
It's not my fault the devil made me do it.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yep.
Just one more thing that is not a defense. It is not a valid defense. No. And it's not mitigating apparently
I was just going
to
say, and it's not a mitigating circumstance.
Alison, let's talk about her. I want to go back to somebody happy for a minute. So she decides to show her face to the rest of the country and to tell her story. She did not want to be the Nordhook victim any longer.
Sure.
This is why I believe that the anonymous pregnant victim and Alison were actually both trying to be anonymous, or they were trying to keep them anonymous during the trial. But Alison actually decides to come forward, and that's why she actually starts responding and goes out. So Alison herself approached a national magazine called You, which also has an Afrikaans version, Huskina, and that is how she ends up reaching the masses.
Oh, okay.
She wanted other victims in South Africa to hear her story and to tell other rape survivors that there was no need to ever hide their experiences of what happened to them because they had done nothing wrong. And she wanted to start breaking down the notion that women are somehow to blame for being raped. Mm-hmm. Following, she became very popular, but she had fallen into a deep depression. Remember, she'd went back to work. She was doing the absolute minimum. Her job was a godsend and was keeping her employed, but she wasn't happy. An anchor for a radio station had her appear on his show. She saw it as an opportunity to reach other rape survivors, so she agreed again. Then there was more publicity. Then she attends a press conference at the Murder and Robbery Units building. Then she gets contacted by Carte Blanche, a journalistic program, and again she agrees to appear. Meanwhile, while she's struggling and she's consumed by numbness and she's unhappy and she's depressed and she's searching for meaning, she's just trying to protect herself, but she's starting to notice what she's maybe called to do. Mm-hmm. The Rotary Club invites her to speak to them. She does, and she gives another couple of talks to other small groups. In December of 1995, she quits her job. It was difficult since her boss had been so supportive, but there was no other way because she's doing all of this now. 2 weeks into the new year, she had this is after the trial, she had to undergo some more plastic and reparative surgery. And while she was recovering, more people and groups are contacting her about speeches. She's getting letters, trauma survivors are contacting her, and she's starting to heal. And what was the catalyst for her is that someone actually asked her what she charged for giving a speech. And then she realized that she'd stumbled into a new career. Mm-hmm. Today, she's an extremely popular and influential motivational speaker, having visited more than 30 countries. She has shared her story and what is described as her ABC system of dealing with trauma and life with countless people, including coming here to the U.S. and sharing with some of the survivors of the terrorist attacks on 9/11 at the World Trade Center in 2001. Now I'm going to talk to you about a person named Teenie, or Tiny, Tienie. So Alison was still pretty deep in her depression, and she went to a friend's party one evening, and she notices Tienie, a man she had met years before through mutual friends but never got to know. She noticed him because he seemed sad somehow, and she internalized on the inside how he was looking on the outside, so she went to talk to him. And she said for once the conversation didn't even touch on her trauma. She was talking to him about him and why he never smiled, and he was telling her about life and how things had gone wrong, and he was very deeply depressed. They talked until after the party had died down. They went for a long walk on a beach and got some coffee. And neither of them was interested in any romance or anything at the time. They were preoccupied with other emotions, but they connected and stayed in touch over weeks and months, and their friendship grew, and neither one of them realized it. And then eventually they realized that they had fallen madly in love with each other, and it was super uncomplicated. And on February 15th of 1997, they were married in an intimate ceremony in the picturesque town of Knisa, and it simply states that Alison looked beautiful. This is Alison's memoir. She describes a series of miracles which conspired to make her survival possible on that night in 94. And we've touched on these. She said, first miracle for her was that she remained calm during her ordeal. She didn't expend energy to try and fight. So she still believes that making the decision not to fight that rape helped saved her.
Sure. Well, especially after now we know how violent
and what
capable of violence he was.
And what she was going to need to do to be able to survive after.
Yeah.
2, when DeToy began to strangle her, her bowels emptied and they cleared her intestines.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon for strangulation, but for her, it prevented more serious damage during the stabbing, and it reduced the risk of infection because she had already evacuated her bowels. DeToy stabbed her more than 30 times in the abdomen, and by his own admission had actually wanted to destroy her reproductive organs, but somehow he still failed to seriously damage any of her vital organs and only nicked her uterus. Had Kruger and DeToy not slashed her throat, get this, she would have indeed died. But the slicing of her trachea allowed air to flow into her lungs, thereby kickstarting her breathing, which brought her back to consciousness.
Oh my God.
So despite his crazy slashing, DeToy failed to sever her carotid arteries and missed her vocal cords, but actually allowed air to get to her body to keep her alive. And had they not thrown the shirt on her back, she would have had a tremendous struggle to keep her intestines in while she was carrying her body back to the road. Also, she said there was a full moon over Port Elizabeth that night, so she was able to see when she had her head on securely. The night was warmer, so she said the prolonged period that she was outside naked and exposed also assisted in helping her live. Yeah. She gives most of the credit, though, to Tion Eilard, who was a veterinary student who had some medical knowledge. She said him possessing that composed presence and that perfect demeanor to help her to remain calm and awake and to continue fighting is what kept her alive there for that long. Then, somehow, divine intervention and the grace of God, this miracle, is that Dr. Angeloff was the on-call doctor for thoracic surgery at the provincial hospital. Who would have known that the thoracic surgeon would have been on call and capable of dealing with her injuries? She wouldn't have made it through otherwise.
No.
March 31st of 2003, newspapers everywhere, because everyone wants to know about Alison Botha's story, carried the happy revelation that Alison was pregnant. Everyone was stunned and excited and awed and blessed. She was quoted by Independence Online. The pregnancy was without complication, but she did have a planned C-section, and she actually went on to have another child. Wow. Alison ends her book, and we're not done yet, but I'm going to tell you this part now because I want some happy. She ends her book with these 2 sentences. Choose to believe in miracles. I certainly do. Her memoir, I Have Life, was written with journalist in conjunction with journalist Marianne Tham. It became a bestseller. The book is not just a recounting of her attack, but also a testament to her resilience and the strength it takes to reclaim one's life after trauma. Alison's story reached a wider audience when it was adapted into a film in 2016. While obviously revisiting her ordeal was difficult, she saw it as an opportunity to amplify her message of survival and hope. When there's a chance the law might change in 2012, Alison said, "Can you imagine if just 100 lifers were reintroduced to society without rehabilitation?" Her campaign efforts were instrumental in ensuring that those prisoners at that time stayed behind bars. So that was in 12. But on July 4th of 2023, DeToy and Kruger, who had only served 28 years of their life sentence, were both released on parole in 2023 without Alison being offered an opportunity to object, as she's done for the past 30 years.
Okay, I'm leaving now.
Yeah,
I quit the podcast. Yeah. I'm done.
Okay.
Okay.
But stay here for a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
You just made me very uncomfortable.
I'm going to make you really, not just uncomfortable, but I'm going to make you feel worse for a minute too.
Okay.
On her Facebook page, Alison expressed her shock. The day I hoped and prayed would never come when I was asked, how will you feel if they ever get parole? My immediate answer has always been, I'm hoping I'll never find out.
Right.
Alison has bravely recounted her harrowing ordeal and remarkable survival, both in her book and in that documentary. And she's spoken tirelessly to hundreds of people. In fact, she was actually given the prestigious Rotary Paul Harris Award for Courage Beyond the Norm. In the same year, she was the first recipient of Femina magazine's Woman of Courage Award and was chosen as Port Elizabeth Citizen of the Year.
Good.
Upon release of her movie, she said, I've always hoped that by sharing my own journey with others, it would give them hope and courage of their own. To have my story and ultimate triumph shared on screen would mean much more to people, to show them the power of choice that we each have. And so here she is then, still doing all this stuff, and these two are released. October 2024.
Oh, my God. That was less than a year ago.
I'm still going, girl. 57-year-old now at the time, Alison Botha, is again fighting for her life.
What?
She suffered from a brain aneurysm. On October 29th, she actually gave this update on her Facebook page. Hi, this is Alison. It's been a while. After a month, I am able to personally update you on my recovery this far. I'm still in the hospital and starting my long journey of rehabilitation. Obviously, she's going through more struggles than others because of the significant scarring and issues that she had that happen. Okay?
Definitely.
She says, I've been assessed by the doctors and physiotherapists and have been informed that I can soon be transferred to a specialist rehab center because of the generosity of so many selfless people. Her community rallied around her, Charnell, and they actually did a bunch of GoFundMes because she didn't have the funding to be able to take care of herself. So they're able to get her into this rehab because of the people who came to bat for her. She says, thank you. I can use my right arm, but unfortunately cannot sit up independently, stand, or walk. At least my sight's improved. My only brother, Neil, has been reduced from 9 to 3 versions of him, like what she's seeing. I hope you approve of my new haircut. And she's like, her hair is super short. She's beautiful, by the way. I'll show if you looked her up. So her hair's super short, and it's a picture of her in her hospital bed. She says, you can all vote on the haircut later. Courtesy of Neil and my legal people, Hannah Lee and Tanya. I'm still a bit shocked. I'm still nervous and still worried about the journey ahead, but I'm a fighter, as so many of you have reminded me. I've been through worse and very determined to make a full recovery. I'm thinking about you all and asking you to keep me in your thoughts. Love, Alison. So I do hope people continue to pray for her, but I'm not going to leave you like that, Charnell.
Okay, thank God.
Following an outcry in South Africa, the parole of Alison Botha's attackers, Frans DeToy and Terence Kruger, was revoked in February of 2025 this year.
No shit.
They revoked their parole. They were returned to prison after being released in July of 2023, which was 8 months prior. So they were out for 18 months. So in July of 2023, DeToy and Kruger were granted parole after serving 28 years of their life sentences for the 1994 abduction, rape, and attempted murder of Alison. Also for the other two women, but they say Alison, okay? DeToy for 3 and Kruger for the 2. Alison was never informed of their release and had consistently opposed their parole prior.
Wow.
Following a legal challenge from her representatives, the Minister of Correctional Services, Peter Grunwald, revoked the parole that had been granted, but he revoked it February 2025. The minister's decision was based on a flawed parole process that disregarded the victim's impact statement and failed to adequately assess the men's continued risk to society. And he determined and stated, parole is a privilege and not a right for offenders. So I'm going to give you, it was rectified, but it should never have happened.
No, 18 months?
Yes.
But what happened in that 18 months?
So I can't tell you a lot, but here's what I can tell you in terms of, so this is the presentation of the legal opinion from the Parliamentary Legal Services. Mr. Buliani Samani, Parliamentary Legal Advisor, Constitutional Legal Services Office advised on the Portfolio Committee's role regarding the Minister of Correctional Services parole revocation. The Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services sought legal advice on its role regarding the minister's decision to revoke parole. So this guy's like, the minister's like, oh, fuck this. You guys violated her rights. They're going back to jail. And then, of course, people are like, well, can he do that?
Right.
don't put yourself too far in the position of these two fuckers. But can you maybe imagine for a minute that you've been released and you've been out on parole for 18 months and then you just get revoked and sent back to prison, right?
Yeah.
And you technically haven't necessarily violated your parole. It was because the parole board fucked up. Okay.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure things are done right. They said the background of the case is as follows. The case involves Terrence Kruger and Franz Adrian Dutoy sentenced to life for crimes committed in 1997. They were granted parole in 2023 of July. Victim was unaware. In December of 2024, the minister announced the intention to revoke their parole, citing safety concerns. Kruger didn't ever submit any representations, but Dutoy did. So they were able to respond to this. Their parole was in fact revoked and due again to those significant safety concerns they posed as a risk to the public and the fact that no notice was given to Alison or the other victims, and they were re-incarcerated in February of 2025. The constitutional oversight for this is that the minister has the final authority on parole for life sentenced offenders.
Okay.
The minister legally can revoke parole if deemed necessary, but must reconsider within 2 years. Okay, so they have to reconsider within the next couple years if it comes up. But she's going to get notice now, okay?
Okay.
In terms of legal precedent, parole is a key part of South Africa's criminal justice system. It does emphasize rehabilitation.
Right.
Previous court rulings state that parole decisions must be rational and cannot be arbitrarily denied.
Sure.
Somehow somebody decided that they had done enough rehabilitation work to let them out.
28 years.
But I don't see how they could have considered any of that. And I think that's what the minister's saying, without having taken the victim in her rights and her opinions into consideration. And she'd always given opinions before. Right. Why didn't they consider it this time? The minister's decision and oversight considerations. The minister revoked parole due to lack of victim participation in the parole process. Mm-hmm. Psychological assessments suggested a continued risk to society.
Oh my gosh.
I fucking got out with that still pending.
Are you kidding me?
And then said the committee can review the process, but they cannot overturn my decision. They cannot overturn the minister's decision. If the parolees find the decision irrational, then they can seek judicial review. Yeah. The conclusion was that the minister acted within legal boundaries to revoke their parole and send them back to prison. The committee can only ensure proper procedures were followed, but they cannot intervene with judicial matters. If needed, the committee can propose legislative amendments for clarity on parole decisions in the future. But we know how the court's going to feel about it because the judge made sure that he put in each of their files that he intended for them to never get out of prison.
Right, exactly.
So she and the other victims and people in South Africa are safe once again after an 18-month stint where they were granted parole. And that is the crazy case of the survival of Alison Botha. Thank you so freaking much to Patreon, Stephanie, who recommended this case. When she told me this, and I did some quick research, Charnell, I was like, oh my God, I think I know this case. Yeah. And then I dove deeper, and then you know what happens from there to me. And I'm like, hey guys, I have a 40-page case to present to you, Nellie. So.
Well, and I like you go more in depth into the court things as well and explaining that, which we all appreciate. Yeah, I'm still a little
emotionally and mentally drained and shocked.
I'm a little whiplashed from the emotional roller coaster of the up and down and the way you'd be like, and here's good news, and then there's bad news, and here's some good news. And just all prayers go out to Alison for her recovering from her aneurysm.
Alison she's so lovely, and she posts all this stuff, and everybody loves her, and she's this amazing, like worldwide, nationally renowned speaker. And the fact that she had to go through this aneurysm and then suffered, as having the rehabilitative issues. But it sounds like I have not seen an update since her post in 2024. If anybody has an update on Alison, please make it only be good news, because Charnell and I don't know if we can take it anymore.
No, I know. Yeah, exactly.
But we do know that she was around for sure to be able to know that she won her next legal battle, and that was getting them put back in prison when they never should have been released.
First of all, Kruger is only going to be in his 50s, and then dipshit will be in his 60s.
They're the same age. She was 1 year older than him. She was 27 when he violently raped and tried to kill her. Yes. He was 26.
Exactly.
Dipshit.
So, and they did 28 years before being released. No, they're absolutely still a risk to society. Yes. We're not talking about decrepit 90-year-old men being released here into a nursing home.
No. No, not at all.
Gosh. So I have a fitting brain bath. Okay.
Okay.
And it's a Facebook post that I saw but it's just a text message conversation between a mom and their 12-year-old. Okay. It says, "Hi, Mom." And that's the kid, right? "Hi, Mom." And the mom says, "Google stuff about being baptized and let me know what you think." The kid says, "It's good." The mom says, "Read all about it and explain to me the meaning." The kid says, "It kills their sins in your old life, and you create a new life where you follow Jesus." Mom gives the thumbs up and says, "Do you want to kill your old life and start living like Christ?" The kid says, "Not yet."
Oh my God. Kids say the darndest things.
It's like, he's taking it serious. He's like, "Listen, I'm only 12. And like, I feel like I'm going to be doing some shit. And so before I dedicate myself to Christ, let me just do some shit. And then I'll dedicate my life to Christ." And you know what? Maybe that's what dipshit did here in this case. Maybe. It's just like, first I'm going to dedicate my life to the demons. Then I'm going to find tiny Jesus under my cot in prison.
Did I send you guys that meme the other day that just spoke to me that said something about, like, person asking question, "Are you calm in anxiety-inducing situations?" And the response was, "Sir, I'm not even calm in calm situations."
Yes, you did.
I produce my own anxiety.
Right.
Well, this one cracks me up. I just want to share it with you because it reminds me of you. And it says, "You can't scare me. When I was in middle school, I read Flowers in the Attic and put Sea Breeze astringent on my face."
Oh, God,
that's
so true.
There's no hurting me.
No, not at all. One of my staff actually said that to me today. She was taking some abuse from someone, and I gave her advice on having them call me because they're not going to like what I have to say. She's like, for a small person, you are terrifying.
Yeah. That's
Thanks.
Right.
That's probably why my siblings nicknamed me Chucky, with love, I'm sure.
With love, also, not be like this jerk.
I am a really lovely human being. I'm
you really
only
are.
Scary to the people who deserve it.
And I feel the same. I think that you just spoke about me as well.
Right, exactly.
I accept what you stated as my reality.
Yes. Oh, gosh, you guys, thank you so much, Megan, for this amazing two-parter.
Yeah, you stuck around. And this one was like, we're on an hour and 40 on this one. So you guys got a couple long ones.
No one can complain that we've putting out too short of content. That's for sure.
No, I gave you guys about 3 hours of it today. So I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We hope that everybody keeps it curious.
And please keep listening.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.